Welcome back to another episode of Sharing is Caring. I'm your host, Lou. Today, we will be exploring the world of agrophysics, a branch of science that combines agronomy and physics to solve agricultural and environmental problems. Our guest today is Vadym, a PhD candidate in the Department of Microstructure and Mechanics of Biomaterials at the Institute of Agrophysics of the Polish Academy of Science. He will be sharing his insights on the field of agrophysics and how it contributes to sustainable and efficient food production systems. Stay tuned for an enlightening conversation that will leave you with a deeper understanding of the science behind agriculture. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, and thank you for being faithful listeners. Now, let's dive into the world of agrophysics with Vadym.
Of course.
Hi, Vadym. How are you?
Hi, thank you. I'm fine. Thank you for the invitation and for the opportunity to invite a little bit the world of agrophysics to the broad audience.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for your time, taking time off your research to join us today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Where is it that you come from?
Nowadays, I'm working in Poland, but my country of origin is Ukraine.
Okay.
My name is Vadym Chibrikov, and I am the PhD candidate at the Department of Microstructure and Mechanics of Biomaterials at the Institute of Agrophysics of the Polish Academy of Science. I'm passionate about the agriculture and horticulture and being somewhat experienced in food science and material science. Thank you again for the opportunity to talk about agrophysics to the broad audience and to share some insight on what the actually agrophysics works is. I hope for the fruitful talk.
Thank you so much. I'm personally super interested in this field. I'm really into knowing new things, and I think most of the listeners are the same. So it's really a pleasure and a big chance for us to learn about agrophysics.
Hope I won't be boring enough.
No, of course not. So we are all ears. Please tell us about agrophysics.
Yeah, we should probably start with the proper explanation of what the agrophysics is. And agrophysics is a branch of the science which borders agronomy and physics. Agrophysics, agronomy, physics, very easy. And the objects of the study in agrophysics are the soil, the plant, and the climate. And it considers a wide variety of topics, for example, physical, chemical, or biological properties of biomaterials, the biogeochemical issues, like what is actually going on in the ground, some metrology and modeling of the processes within soil, within plant, or within climate, or within the system of soil, plant, and climate. And these studies maybe also branch to some subsystems, for example, soil climate, soil plant, climate plant, and etc. And generally, since the branch is called agrophysics, we are not limited to use physical only methods in our studies. And even more, we are encouraged to use multidisciplinary approach, which includes chemistry, biology, ecology, physics, math, and so on and so forth. And here we should consider the word physics as the basic unit of nature, actually. For example, chemical atoms are also the physical matter. The basic biological units as DNA are also a physical matter. Some ecological phenomenon like ozone hole, soil erosion, they are also physical matter. And thus the definition of agrophysics to the broad community may be presented as something like it is the field of study that is aimed to define and manage agronomy issues from the very basic physical dogmas to the macro scale in which we are living in.
what is it that your research focuses on?
My research is focused when we are talking about these subsystems, soil, plant, and climate. My research is closer to the plant studies because I'm studying the systems that are analogs of the one that are in plants. And as I'm affiliated with the Department of Microstructure and Mechanics of Biomaterials, we study how these systems, how these analogs respond to some mechanical issues in terms of its structure. So I'm more considered to the plant studies, but I'm not studying plants. I'm studying some systems that are analogs of those of plants.
Sounds super good. So can you maybe enlighten us on the mission of agrophysics?
Yeah, sure. When we are talking about the main mission of agrophysics, it may be considered as understanding and solving agricultural or environmental problems in terms of these physical principles, in terms of this basic physical dogma. And it may consider, like, for example, when we are talking about soil, it may consider soil characterization, like, for example, soil porosity, because it's porous, it contains some soil and some air. Soil may be composed of some smaller grains and some smaller pieces, so we may consider particle size distribution of the soil. Soil contains water or may contain water, may keep water, so we may consider water retention properties of the soil. Soil is also permeable to water, to some gases, so we may study permeability of the soil. And this is crucial in terms of applicability for optimizing irrigation, drainage, soil management practices to enhance, for example, crop growth, which is necessary for us nowadays. And also the other mission of agrophysics may consider plant-soil interactions. Agrophysics investigates the interactions between plants, their growing medium, and in particular, the way in which plants extract water and nutrients from the soil. And this knowledge helps in designing efficient irrigation and fertilization strategies. Another mission of the agriculture may consider environmental impact. Agrophysics plays a role in understanding how agricultural practices affect the environment. And by studying the movement of water, for example, or movement of chemicals, some nutrients within the soil, researchers can define the matter of soil erosion, soil pollution, and the leaching of contaminants into the groundwater, and etc. And also another mission of agrophysics may consider the study of crop growth and crop yield. Agrophysicists work to model and predict how different physical factors like soil structure, moisture content, temperature, how it is influence crop growth and crop yield. And this information can guide farmers, for example, in making informed decisions about planting and harvesting times, as well as like selecting appropriate crop varieties, and so on and so forth. Another necessary mission of the agrophysics may be called as precision agriculture. Agrophysics contributes to the development of precision agriculture techniques where technology used to manage agricultural inputs like water, fertilizers, pesticides, and we may manage it in a more targeted and efficient manner by means of agrophysics. And this helps optimize resource utilization, reduce waste, for example, increase productivity, like in terms of crop growth, crop yield, which you were talking about. Another necessary mission of the agrophysics is the soil management. Agrophysics may provide insight into the soil compaction, for example, soil aeration, soil drainage, which may help farmers to avoid detrimental effects in soil structure and fertility. And this knowledge can be used to develop, for example, strategies for sustainable soil management, which is necessary nowadays. Another necessary mission of agrophysics is the remote sensing and imaging. Agrophysics incorporate remote sensing technologies such as satellite imagery, drones, to monitor agricultural fields and gather data on various physical parameters. And these technologies may aid in assessing crop health, water availability, soil conditions, and so on and so forth. And in general, to sum it up, the mission of agrophysics is to bridge gap between physics, these basic dogmas, and agriculture as the basic activity of the needs of humanity. And it may leverage scientific principles to address the challenges faced by modern agriculture and contribute to sustainable and efficient food production systems.
Okay, what's your workflow like? Do you work in a lab on theoretical models in front of a computer, or sometimes you go also on the field? I expect it's a mix of the two, but yeah.
Yeah, of course, it's in the mix of the two. Sometimes, actually, as far as I'm studying analog systems, I'm not working with plants, so there is no need for me to go to the field. But there are a lot of other like scientists in our institute. They actually need to work at the field, for example, with some samples of soil or some samples of the plants from the like sometimes these studies may take like several years because when you will work 1 year in the field, you will have one generation of the plant which won't be representative. So you should have like several studies at the field to see like the dynamics, how the process is changing. And the same maybe with the soil. You need to consider the soil studies in dynamics. Yeah, and yeah, you should work in the field. And also when we are talking about the climate, it is a little bit easier since I have already said that agrophysics consider climate studies, but climate studies require sensing. Yeah, so we do have data from some sensors that may be installed far away in the field, but there is no actually need to go there. Yeah, so in this term, climate may be a little bit easier to study since you do not have necessity to go somewhere. Yeah, but when you're studying some soil-related issues and plant-related issues, of course, you should work in field.
Okay, duly noted. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, thanks.
Would you have some examples of implementation of research in a field?
Yeah, of course. I've tried to prepare for you some like interesting cases and stories that were or will be will find its applicability. Even before the starting my PhD at the Institute of Agrophysics, I was working on the possibilities of the use of sweet sorghum for food purposes. And the concept of high quality and biologically safe food products, which contain vitamins, macro, micro elements, and other biologically active nutrients, is the leading trend in the food industry nowadays. And the market of sweeteners, represented mainly by natural and highly processed products like stevia, palm, coconut sugar, molasses, and so on and so forth. And sweet sorghum here maybe is a promising crop and alternative source for natural sugar-containing products. Why it is so? Because it's characterized by short ripening periods, well tolerates droughts, and provides high and stable yields of grains and green biomass. And these attributes make sweet sorghum possible to grow successfully in difficult climate conditions like middle semi-tropical latitudes. And apart from some components like cellulose, hemicellulose, lignin, it contains carbohydrates, proteins, amino acids, some minerals, and this makes it possible to consider sweet sorghum as an alternative material like for sugar beet. Another beneficial feature is the possibility to produce syrups and molasses of high biological value from sweet sorghum. And before starting my journey at the Institute of Agrophysics, we were actually working on the way how we may develop these liquid carbohydrates sweeteners from the sweet sorghum. Unfortunately, we have done a really great job there. However, COVID and ongoing war in Ukraine severely affected our abilities for the research. However, we were successful to obtain some interesting results. So we were able to obtain this sweet sorghum syrup, and it was sweet, and its parameters were like applicable for the consumers. Yeah, so we may consider it as a little success, however, with no like industrial implementation. However, in other research that I have prepared to share with you, it may find its broader application. And this year I have applied for this project, and it is called Formation of Bacterial Cellulose Fiber Networks from Apple Pomace. And food processing generates more than like 40 million tons of byproducts each year, which are detrimental to the environment, but still having some nutritional and also economic value. And one of the specific strategies of the bioeconomy in the European region is dedicated to the utilization management of waste from modern lifestyles through the bioconversion of the products, such as like biodegradable materials for specific purposes. And apple pomade here is a processing waste actually in apple juice production, which is a poor supplementary feed for livestock, but of wide carbohydrate composition. And what was the idea? The idea was to use this apple pomace for the preparation of bacterial cellulose fiber network, and studying it like specific purposes on something. I can tell you exactly in which branch. However, we may also utilize these bacterial cellulose for food purposes, and probably Filipinos they know what is nata del coco or coconut gel. It is the chewy, like jelly-like food produced by the bacteria by the fermentation of coconut water. And this is actually this bacterial cellulose, which we will be preparing from the apple pomace. And they use it as a commonly sweetened or as a candy or as a dessert. and it may accompany like a variety of food, pickles, drinks, ice cream, and so on and so forth. And I think, isn't it brilliant if we will be able to produce this cream of apples, like fruit out of apple pomace? And that may find a really broad application, I think. Another interesting study is also ongoing in our lab. It's done by the research group of Dr. Agata Leszczuk. And they have taken really hard task. They are trying to investigate which components of the cell wall are responsible for the softening and ripening of tomato fruit. Since modern markets requires an ideal fruits and vegetables, the one that are stiff, juicy, ripe, tasty, and easy to handle. And it's a pity to hear that consumer would not probably buy soft or unripe tomatoes. And thus the group of Agata Leszczuk is studying how the structure and composition of this tomato cell wall is changing within the ripening, and what are like the molecular markers of such a change, and are there ways on how to ensure stiffness of the tomato cell wall. And I'm really looking for the results. Another interesting research which I'm hoping to take part in, it is called cellulose-based hydrogels for the immobilization of antagonistic microorganisms. And the logic here, the logic here is while these antagonistic microorganisms can greatly limit crop productivity and crop yield by various plant diseases, we should ensure microbiological protection of plants. But to provide such beneficial microorganisms to crops, and moreover to ensure its controllable release in soil, we need some protective substances. And agrogels, which are currently used as these carriers of beneficial microorganisms, they are based on artificial polymers and they contribute to soil pollution. And so why can't we use cellulose-based biocomposites as the carrier for beneficial microorganisms? They are biodegradable, have high water holding capacity, also improving water retention in soil. And this study is like really seems to be in touch with the role of agrophysics in sustainable practices.
Amazing. That's mind-blowing. It's big changes that all those research would produce. So,
but it's just like a small part of what we are doing here. It's like this is the only study of my department, but we have 5 more that are working with the soil, with the plant, with the climate more directly, that are going to the field, that work in field with the soil, with the plant. So probably they do have some more promising and interesting results. Yeah, so that's why I'm talking. We at agrophysics, we also always will have what to do, and we will have a lot of work and a lot of interesting work. Yeah, so that's why I was very pleased to like introduce agrophysics a little bit more to the broad audience. And thank you again for the opportunity.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's an enormous pleasure, and I expected it to be much more theoretical, but yeah, you seem to be tackling industry problems, so it's amazing. Like, and yeah, things that would directly affect the consumer as well. So it's
we as a scientist, we should find this balance, like not to go too deep to the unknown science, in which only we know what we are doing and why we are doing this, but the science should be for the consumer, for the people, for the humanity. They should also understand what we are doing. Yeah, so we are trying to do like the easy things, but in more complex way, not complex by means of like expensive and unnecessary, but to go deeper. Yeah, so to explain some basic stuff, basic things by the deeper knowledges, and to implement and introduce some solutions that will be applicable for the farmers, for the industry, and hope for the humanity.
Amazing. That's a very ambitious mission, and yeah, I mean, I'm sure you have quite a lot of achievement under your belt. So, as a department and as a field, agrophysics has probably contributed enormous things. Otherwise, it would not exist. So, thank you for what you do.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for motivating us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's not finished. We need you, really. Last question would be, how do you tackle climate change?
As a scientist or myself?
No, your field. Was it also
Okay.
part of the case studies you mentioned?
Actually, working with the biomaterials, I'm not sure whether we are able to somehow fight against the climate change. Probably we are not, but as the scientists, we should have a broad knowledge of what is going on in the field. And for example, I don't know whether you heard this news or not, that like several days or weeks ago, there was a nice paper published in Nature, which said that there are some issues that consider that photosynthesis may stop in the tropical forest. And the issue there that the temperatures are increasing and the photosynthesis may stop in plants because of the high temperature, because not of all biological processes may occur at these high temperatures, or they are ongoing like much more slower. That was a really interesting research. So I consider that we as a field fighting with the climate change by providing valuable insights, which no one except us would probably provide. And that is our contribution on how we are fighting climate change. Not me directly, maybe somehow indirectly, but anyway, yeah, we should consider it like this. We provide insights to implement into implementation. And yeah, we are not just giving the raw information of, okay, the photosynthesis will stop. No, we should provide also the way how to slow it down, or how to reverse it, or something like this. Yeah, so that's our role as the field, as the agrophysicist.
Nice one. Duly noted. What do you like to eat? What are your favorite ingredients?
Actually, I'm not a vegetarian. I do like meat because interesting question. I don't know how should I answer it. I do like a lot of food that probably I shouldn't.
Just tell the truth. Your supervisor is hopefully not not listening yet. So tell the truth, please. Don't hide anything. That's the way to answer.
I do like some junk food. Why not? And by junk food, for me, junk food will be like bread or some flour products, because I do have some issues related to the obesity. So yeah, I probably shouldn't eat some flour-based products. I do like candies. Who doesn't? I do like meat. Yeah. Do I keep some special diet like sustainable? Probably not by myself, but I'm trying to use some products that are like eco or green produced. If I do have such a choice, I would probably choose this one product. Yeah, so that's why how I'm fighting. I probably should fight much more harder, but something stops me.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Any advice from the top of your career, your academic career? Would you have any advice to our listeners?
I mean, what kind of advice?
General advice, something you've learned in life or in your research or elsewhere, and that you would like to share. It's an optional question.
Yeah,
If
it's like
you
really broad question. I may spend like another hour there giving my advices. But maybe I will give some practical advice. Okay, some practical advice related to science. Maybe nowadays we should check information much more precisely, because like nowadays we are living in the like the bubble of the internet, where we do have a great amount of data, which we are probably not filtering. Maybe some fake news, fake informations, fake information. So yeah, probably we should filter information. Yeah, and it really helps me since I consider myself as a scientist now. I'm not. I'm still a PhD candidate, so I can't consider myself as a scientist. But it really helps me to consider which information I should consider as a truthful and which not. Yeah, because being in science, you do have this systematic approach to any problem in your life. Yeah, and it helps a lot with these informational issues. Not only about, I mean, the information in terms of fake news or something like this, but also in decision making, this kind of a analytical approach, trying to understand the problem deeply. Yeah, so I probably would make an advice to all to dig deeper into every single problem that you see, and you consider it as an easy problem, but try to dive it deeper. Yeah, that probably would be my advice related to the science. And maybe some advice related to the life. We should be like much more warm and friendly to the other people. Yeah, that would be probably my advice.
Okay. Thank you so much. You gave two. I asked for one. So thank you so much.
I may give even like 10 more, but I probably shouldn't.
Save it for the next episode.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So that was Vadym Chibrikov.
Yeah, right.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. It was my pleasure.
And we keep in touch.
Yeah, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for the conversation with Vadym. It was a pleasure to learn more about the fascinating field of agrophysics. We hope you appreciate the insights and the valuable work that agrophysicists do to address agricultural and environmental challenges. Remember, dear listeners, to stay curious and keep exploring the world around you. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast to never miss an episode. Thank you for being faithful listeners of Sharing is Caring. Goodbye for now.